So, does anyone care to touch on this further?
Picks us up in my car from the airport. We get in the car and we begin to drive. And so we're so excited about the testimonies, we start telling him about the testimonies. Then all of a sudden, my friend Craig, who's in the back of the car, back seat, starts screaming,
What's going on?
What's going on? We're in Mississippi. And I'm thinking, what? And
What?
yeah. So I look back at him and I look forward, and we were driving down the Vancouver Highway. Well, all of a sudden, we're not on the Vancouver Highway anymore, Sid. We were on a normal street. There were street lights. We look to the left. There's a guy mowing the lawn. And my friend in the back screams, I know that man. I know that man. I went to high school with him. This is my hometown. And my brother's driving the car, and he just looks stunned. He's like, he's trying to figure out what's going on. And so all of a sudden I look back.
How many miles away was this from where you were?
My name is Jerry. I left MAGA. And in this episode, I'm going to talk about teleportation. Not the kind that might not have been developed at the Air Force Weapons Lab. We didn't do any of that. We did work with high energy directed energy weapons, as I pointed out before. But I'm referring to this sort of teleportation. When this particular article, and I'm not going to read it, I'm just using it as a reference point. But a far right FEMA official in charge of disaster response once said he involuntarily teleported to a Waffle House 50 miles away. I'm going to bring some things for you to think about with a bit of an explanation on the back end of this. But I got a few clips I want to show you just to show you that, or, give you an idea that this dude right here is just a little off his rocker like some other folks. Um, let's go ahead and run with this clip from Rick Joyner. I've got another video already in the shoot, and it's going to deal with Rick Joyner. But in the meantime, let's take a listen to what Mr. Rick Joyner has to say.
Pray for me to get Philip's anointing, so I can, when I'm supposed to go somewhere, I just get zapped there, translated there. And by the way, I have done that one time. That has happened to me one time. I don't have time to get into it now, but I'll tell you about it sometime. But I really got physically translated with my car and was zapped right to a place. And there's no way it was physically impossible for that to have happened otherwise. I went somewhere that would have taken 2 hours by travel. I was there instantly. And so anyway, I didn't even tell anybody about that for years because I thought no one would believe me. And I was praying the Lord keep doing it, But he is going to be doing that. And he showed me that in the days to come, we were going to be able to be translated by faith. Now that happened. I wasn't expecting it. It shocked me when it happened. I mean, I was just dumbfounded. I knew it had to be God, and I knew it was what had happened, but it was still shocking. But he showed me that in the days to come, we were going to be translated by faith. We would.
All right. We'll get a definition for what he means by translated towards the end of this. I have, like I teased earlier, I have a clip lined up for that. Now, I want to give you another example. I've got 2 examples lined up coming from Sid Roth. And then the explanation I'm going to play part of on the back end is also pulling from Sid Roth's show dealing with this teleportation thing. And all the links will be in the description, the link to the article, and then a link to the playlist with these videos on it. But yeah, let's check out some of Jerome Nelson's testimony.
Well, what happened is, after I heard many of those testimonies, like I just shared the one with you, Bobby told me something. He said, hey, Jeremy, he goes, do you want to know why I keep telling you these testimonies? I said, why is that? And he said, it's not because I want you to think I'm more spiritual than you, but it's because I'm giving you the keys to enter into the encounters yourself. He said, the testimony of Jesus is a spirit of prophecy. And he said, the reason why I tell you the testimonies is because it actually opens it up for you. And he said, if you'll think about the things of God and talk about the things of God, Colossians chapter 3, verse 1, set your mind and affections on things above. He said, if you set your mind there, then you'll have the things that are above in your life. And so he challenged me. He said, I challenge you to talk about God and watch what happens. And so me and my friend are flying from New Jersey back to Vancouver, where I was living at the time. And as we're flying back, we're just talking about God stories. You know, we're telling testimonies of miracles and dreams and visions and encounters. And at that time, I was telling mainly Bobby's because I was just with him.
Right.
And so we get to Vancouver, and my brother Josh picks us up in my car from the airport. We get in the car and we begin to drive. And so we're so excited about the testimonies, we start telling him about the testimonies. Then all of a sudden, my friend Craig, who's in the back of the car, back seat, starts screaming, what's going on? What's going on? We're in Mississippi. And I'm thinking, what? And
What?
Yeah. So I look back at him and I look forward, and you know, we were driving down the Vancouver highway. Well, all of a sudden, we're not on the Vancouver highway anymore, Sid. We were on a normal street. There were street lights. We look to the left. There's a guy mowing the lawn. And my friend in the back screams, I know that man. I know that man. I went to high school with him. This is my hometown. And my brother's driving the car, and he just looks stunned. He's like, he's trying to figure out what's going on. And so all of a sudden I look
Now,
back.
how many miles away was this from where you were?
2,700 miles.
Did you
2,700 miles. So a 50-mile jump to Waffle House is no big deal for these folks, right?
get that? He's all of a sudden transported 2,700 miles.
Yeah.
We don't
Man, Sid Roth is just so creepy. Yeah, all right. So we've got this other video from Sid Roth's show where he's talking to Ken Peters, stepped into the invisible world and found himself in where?
Went on the strangest trip
Yes,
to another country.
yes.
Tell me the circumstances of that.
Well, I was staying in a parsonage at a church, and shortly after I had accepted Jesus as my Savior, people began to ask me about what was happening with me. And so I was at this church and staying in this parsonage. There was no power, no electricity, no heat in the building. It was very cold. It was the winter, and I was asleep. And in the middle of the night, the room lit up, got very bright, and I thought, well, you know, it must be morning already.
A street lamp or something?
Well, I thought it was sunrise because it was so bright, you know. And this bright light just shined in the room, completely took the presence in the room. And I began to look, and I said, well, who's there? And as soon as I said, who's there, the light kind of peeled back, so to speak, and there was Jesus standing there with this light around him, just brilliant.
By the way, if you want me to cover his whole story, I will gladly do that. This is, as you can tell, is just a clip from the whole thing. There's so much material out there I can work with, though.
And he began to speak to me and told me that I would be a prophet, and I didn't understand what that meant. I mean,
You didn't know what the word prophet even meant?
well, maybe like a psychic or something, you know, something that I had heard about, you know, maybe on television, but to have an understanding of a prophet that God would use, no, I really didn't. You know,
And incidentally, a psychic is not from God. Why? Because the source is not God, and because God says, I require accuracy. And psychics, by their own admission, are right maybe 10% of the time. I think I'm stretching a little bit. Anyway, go on.
The bifurcation of knowledge in a black and white thinking sort of way. Wow.
well, what happened was he began to show me scriptures. He took me to my Bible and showed me scriptures that I was to follow with my life. And then, I know this may sound silly, but the next thing I realize is I'm standing on a mountain in some, I believed in my mind, a South American country, because I saw a lot of people that looked South American, maybe a Latin background, making a trek up this mountain. And at the top of this mountain was a huge statue of Jesus with his arms stretched out. and these people were climbing up this mountain. It seemed to be hundreds and thousands, Sid. There was a huge multitude of people climbing this mountain. And I was standing there with Jesus, and he was crying. Tears were running down his face.
Why?
Well, I asked him, I said, well, Lord, why are you crying? Because I thought these people were, progressing to meet him or something. And he said, if only my people would worship me. And they were going to this image of him. It was more of an image. And then I realized that some of my own worship in the past had been more to an image of God than to God the Creator, And many years later, again, the reason I'm so adamant about these dreams and visions, many years later, I was watching television, and a television commercial came on. It was an airline commercial, and it was a big jet airliner flying in the clouds, and all of a sudden they panned on the jet, and it was flying next to this huge statue of Jesus on this mountain. And I shouted to my wife, that's where I was. And then down at the caption it said Rio de Janeiro.
So he went for years without realizing the statue on top of the mountain in Rio is that one. I wonder if he was confused by the Jesus cross statue in Eureka Springs, Arkansas. Anyway, that's all I really wanted to share with you on that. But if you want me to cover his whole story, I can gladly do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going over here to use Justin Peters' video talking about this, you can see there, toilet transportation. This is actually kind of where I started hearing about these stories because I wasn't really aware of Sid Roth. And I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. Sid Roth's show, it's supernatural, in my honest opinion, or humble opinion. It's nothing more than Ripley's Believe It or Not for Christians. So let's have Justin talk about this one.
His name is Bruce Allen. Bruce Allen claims to be able to translate, and not translate a language, no, be physically translated from one location to another.
Can a man walk through a door and find himself in another part of the world?
In short, no.
My guest was taught the secrets of supernatural travel and how you can do this too. Next on this edition of It's Supernatural.
Now, when I first saw that, I thought, this looks like the Twilight Show. Those of you old enough to remember that show, it has very much of a Twilight Show aura to it. But notice that Sid Roth sets this up. He's going to introduce his guest who can translate, go from one spot to the next, sometimes all the way around the world, or at least halfway around the world. And you can do it too.
I have Bruce Allen here, who has been commissioned by God to teach you about what the Bible refers to as translation. What is translation, Bruce?
I said translation has a number of nuances to the meaning, but as far as the Christian is concerned, it could speak of being caught away in the spirit into the realm of heaven where we understand God to be. And then it also speaks of a transportation, a geographic shift from one location to another supernaturally.
For instance, example of the first one, let's say, you're driving a car and it takes X number of hours to get to a place, and you get there shorter, where time is literally compressed. Give me an example of how that's happened in your life.
I grew up in a little town outside of Seattle called Edmonds, Washington, right on the beach. And from Edmonds, Washington to Spokane, Washington is about 5.5 hour drive. On a good day, if you're really pressing, 4.5, and there's no traffic for that, because you're going over mountain passes. And the Lord had been challenging me about whether an individual could be translated by faith. And so when I finally came to the conclusion, this is the word of the Lord, I said, yes, sir, I believe so, and I'm ready for my first lesson. So I prayed over the car that morning with my friend, and we began to drive from Edmonds to Spokane. And I remember every turn in the road, every exit, we stopped for lunch as we normally do, and we did that trip in less than 2 hours.
Less than 2 hours, and how long should it have taken?
5.5 hours.
5.5 hours. Now, that's my kind of transportation.
Pretty impressive. Go from Edmonds, Washington to Spokane, Washington in just a couple of hours, a trip that's normally 5.5 hours. That's pretty impressive, but it's nothing compared to this.
As far as understanding and revelation of how this is doable and how it operates, as well as experiential in seeing these things take place.
Tell me about Richard from Kenya.
I have a friend named Joe. He's also from Kenya, and
This was the story that really stuck in my mind.
had heard a story about a gentleman named Richard who had had an experience of geographic translocation or transportation. And so I asked Joe, I said, is this true? He said, oh, I know this Richard. He's my friend. And this is the story. Richard one day was told by God, he said, I want you to go to another country. He said, I have something I want you to do there. And this man in his excitement and zeal packed his suitcase, went to the airport, and when he got to the airport, he set his suitcase down, and he said, now what do I do, Lord? Because I have no money and I have no passport. The Lord said, go into the men's room. Go into the third stall on your left. And he did that, and he said, now what, Lord? He said, worship me. So this man, Richard, lifted his hands to heaven and began to worship the Lord. And after a few minutes of time, the Lord said, okay, now pick up your suitcase and go. And when he walked out of that men's room, he was in the airport in Paris.
Just out of curiosity, do you know how he got back?
No, I never did ask, as a matter of fact.
Well, did you hear that? He had no passport, he had no money, and he goes into the restroom and he walks. Again, that's my way to travel.
So God told this guy to go into the men's room, walk into a bathroom, and come out in France.
I'm just going to leave it there. All the links will be in the description below. I know this is one of the shorter videos. I was just trying to explain how it is that this head of FEMA believes that he teleported 50 miles to a Waffle House. Anyway, teleportation's not a thing. All right. I've got a couple more videos I'm going to crank out today. I've got a few fun little projects in the shoot, and I'll try to get them in the can and get them headed up to you guys. So thanks for hanging out to the end. I hope you found some humor in this. Like I said, the full videos will be in the description. If you have any questions, please ask. Uh, until the next video, take care of yourself so you can help take care of others. Get the rest you need and keep track of those fluids.